Shocking revelation about Azazel, the fallen angel who unleashed forbidden secrets. Few knew what truly happened that night when shadows danced along the rocky cliffs of Azazel's domain. The air crackled with a dark energy, whispering truths hidden for centuries, secrets that could shatter the very fabric of faith. Azazel, once a radiant angel, now roamed the earth, shunned by heaven, carrying knowledge you wouldn't dare dream of. Imagine a world at the edge of time, where the mountains of Sinai kissed the sky, and the moon cast an otherworldly glow upon the barren land. This was where Azazel held sway, where he walked among men and angels alike, leaving a trail of fear and awe in his wake. The people of Israel were unaware that the power of the divine and the sinister forces of hell were in an eternal struggle around them. On that fateful night, the sacrificial goat was chosen, destined to carry the sins of the people far into the wilderness, a meek creature unaware of the gravity of its charge. As the priests stood in awe, a murmur of fear rippled through the crowd. The sky darkened, the winds howled, and a shadow loomed, stretching across the altar, wrapping around the hearts of those present. Whispers of forbidden knowledge erupted among the masses, legends of Azazel echoing off the mountain walls like a haunting melody. Suddenly, the air thickened, and the tension was palpable. What was the true meaning of Azazel's actions? Was he a scapegoat or something more? Contradictions swirled. Some said he was a harbinger of doom, a vessel of chaos. Others spoke of him with reverence, as a bearer of wisdom that should never have been shared. How could one fallen angel wield such forbidden power? The raw questions gripped their hearts like icy hands. In that moment, fear clutched at the collective throat of the crowd. Gasps echoed as the goat trembled, sensing more than just its fate. What unspeakable secrets did it carry? What if Azazel wasn't merely a player in this divine drama, but the key to unlocking profound mysteries buried beneath the surface of their reality? As uncertainty hung in the air, dread crept into souls. The people were torn, caught between belief and disbelief. Was it a blessing, or was it a curse? As the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows flickered and danced, leaving echoes in their wake. A single question lingered, echoing in every mind: what would become of them if they dared to delve into the darkness that Azazel represented? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air trembled with anticipation, and the crowd stood motionless, caught between the familiar and the unknown. As the goat was led to the altar, the convergence of hope and despair seemed palpable. The priests, adorned in sacred garments, recited prayers that wove through the atmosphere like a lifeline, a tether binding them to the divine amidst the rising tide of dread. Yet, as the high priest raised his hands in supplication, the shadows deepened, their forms shifting as if beckoning from beyond a veil. The uninvited presence of Azazel lingered just out of sight, haunting the edges of awareness. Compelled by a force larger than themselves, the onlookers could feel his essence, a reminder of the fragility of their faith and the weight of their sins. As the sun's last light surrendered to the inevitable night, the goat stood still, its wide eyes reflective pools mirroring the fear and guilt the people harbored. Each individual felt an unseen thread linking their hearts to this creature. Was it an innocent vessel, or did it hold an ancient knowledge, a truth too daunting for mortal minds to comprehend? Suddenly, a feeling washed over the assembly, a glimpse of the hidden struggle, a light flickering in the dark. In that moment, some claimed to hear a whisper, soft yet searing, swirling through the air like a serpent unraveling its secrets. To bear the weight of sin is both a burden and a gift. Was it Azazel speaking, or the long-buried whispers of their own hearts? In the ancient tradition, the wilderness awaited, a vast and unforgiving expanse where this goat would carry their sins, a powerful metaphor for redemption and estrangement. What lay beyond the threshold of that wilderness? Was it mere desolation, or did it hold the echoes of past transgressions and future consequences? The details of the unknown were tantalizing, swirling in an air thick with spiritual mystery. As the high priest spoke the final word of the prayer, the shadows fell silent, pregnant with meaning. The crowd could feel the weight of history pressing down upon them, as if the earth itself braced for the earthquakes of their collective choices. Azazel, the fallen angel, danced at the edge of their understanding, embodying both chaos and clarity, a reflection of the internal battles each soul fought. A ripple of uncertainty surged through the people. Could redemption truly spring forth from the very thing they feared? Was Azazel, in all his twisted glory, a necessary aspect of their journey towards understanding the divine? The air was thick with the urgency of their unspoken thoughts, begging to be unveiled. As the goat was led into the wilderness, panic and curiosity warred within the hearts of the people. Would the darkness take them or teach them? Would they dare to follow the path where shadows lay thick and inviting? The echo of an unanswered question loomed. What unshackled truths awaited them in the abyss, and were they prepared to confront the darkness within? As the night embraced the land like a heavy cloak, a palpable silence fell over the congregation. The high priest's voice had faded into hushed reverence, but the lingering weight of the ritual held the assembly captive in an interlude of reflection. Gazes tracked the sullen figure of the goat as it ambled into the vast wilderness, a solitary wanderer taking upon itself the collective despair of a nation. Whispers fluttered like restless leaves among the crowd, each individual grappling with the unshakable presence of Azazel. What truths had he borne witness to, and what mysteries still clouded the skies above the sinners gathered? Was he merely a demon of their own making, a necessary outcast serving as the mirror reflecting their inner turmoil? Among the watchers stood a woman named Miriam. In her heart, the fear was entwined with hope, for she had always sensed that darkness could give birth to light. She had known loss, seen family torn apart by illness and strife. Her own sins gnawed at her like unrelenting wolves, yet deep within her stirred the belief that to bear witness to suffering could forge a path to understanding. As she gazed at the retreating figure, her mind wrestled with an uncomfortable thought. What if Azazel offered more than mere disdain and chaos? Could he also be a guide through the labyrinth of their collective anguish? In her contemplation, an image arose, a vision of Azazel as a paradox, a burden that could transform into a blessing, just as the goat carried the weight of sin yet sought only solitude. The people turned to each other, eyes reflecting confusion and an unsettling curiosity. Could embracing their darkness lead them to wholeness? Could it mar the sacredness of their striving for virtue? As dawn began its slow ascent, the faintest glimmer of hope broke across the horizon. Light spilled forth but struggled to pierce the shadows, revealing the rugged terrain that lay beyond, a wilderness not just of land, but of spirit. The elders began to murmur, recalling the ancient words passed down from generations before, in desolation, creation begins anew. The chaos that lived in Azazel's shadow might very well signify the chaos intrinsic to the soul's journey, yet even amid the emerging light, Miriam felt the question clawing at her heart, the question that lingered as oppressively as the night itself: how could true redemption arise from confronting something so shunned and feared? Was this wilderness simply a backdrop for their despondencies, or could it birth an entirely new existence? By now, the goat was a distant silhouette, nearly swallowed by the vast landscape swelling with secrets. She could feel the tension as others abandoned hope for certainty, wrestling with the deep-rooted fear of the unknown, the fear that clung to every fold of their garments like a shadow of self-doubt. What lay ahead? Could venturing into the wilderness lead them back, not simply as the relieved, but as the enlightened? And so, a new question arose in Miriam's heart as she watched the light play on the edge of darkness. Was Azazel truly a demonic force, or could he embody a harbinger of liberation, guiding them toward the buried truths that haunted their conscience? Would they be able to endure the journey, whatever it might hold? As the sun breached the horizon, casting golden threads across the land, the congregation reluctantly began to uncoil from their reverie. Overflowing with confusion and tenderness, the air held their breath hostage, waiting for a movement, anything to break the silence that had stretched like an undulating cloth between hope and despair. Miriam remained fixated on the path laid before the goat, her thoughts swirling like dust in the morning light. The elders continued their muted discussions, but the weight of their voices felt distant to her, like echoes trapped in a cavern of doubt. It struck her then, how everyone seemed tethered to fear while she was captivated by something different, a yearning. Perhaps Azazel, the outcast, had not left them to wander in darkness, but rather ushered them into an exploration of the unexamined spaces of their hearts. Her thoughts drifted to the tales of old, words recited in tones of reverence, punctuated by the gravity of warnings about unclean spirits and the dangers they posed. Yet, in the fractured narrative of her life, she had encountered darkness woven with the delicate threads of grace. What if every sin, every whispered transgression, was a key that might unlock chambers within their souls that had remained closed for far too long? As she took a tentative step toward the others, a rustle stirred in the tall grass nearby. From its depths, a figure emerged, a wanderer cloaked in shadow, visible yet elusive like the edges of a dream. Instinctively, murmurs cascaded through the crowd, their tension palpable. The man's eyes sparkled with an intensity that mirrored the flicker of realization lighting Miriam's heart. Was he a traveler or an omen, a teacher or a trickster from the wilderness? Who are you? She called, her voice trembling yet resolute. It surprised her how firm she was, as if calling forth not just an answer from the stranger, but a response from the collective fear binding them all. That I am but a seeker, he replied, his voice smooth and steady. I have wandered through the shadowlands and emerged anew. It is said that in the depths of darkness lies the potential for extraordinary light. Have you ever considered that the wilderness does not merely consume one but transforms what it touches? Miriam exchanged glances with others around her, and although many retained a glimmer of skepticism, others leaned forward, curiosity kindling within. We cast out what we fear, she reflected aloud, and yet, could it be that to embrace what we reject may hold the promise of salvation? The wind curled around them, carrying the resonance of her words back into their ears, igniting flickers of recognition. The goat, she whispered, holds the sins of a nation, yet in doing so it sets them free. Perhaps Azazel's fate is not a burden, but rather an embrace of a new path. The man held her gaze, his smile hinting at wisdom gained from journeys untold. Indeed, child, he affirmed, and the wilderness may well be the passage through which you will unearth the truths buried under the weight of your own darkness, providing tenderness among the raw edges of forsaken sin. The veil of uncertainty hung heavier than ever, yet a seed of courage began to take root within Miriam and others, a collective trembling anticipation at the precipice of discovery. Yet a question echoed: were they ready to confront the reflections of their own souls, to walk with Azazel into the wilderness of their deepest fears? Would they emerge not just as freed individuals but as a transformed community, bound by the revelations of shared vulnerability? As the figure faded back into the shimmering mirage of the horizon, Miriam's heart raced with exhilaration and dread. The wilderness now loomed larger, a vast sea of possibilities and reflections, a realm that demanded not only faith, but also surrender to the discomfort that invariably comes with revelation. What awaited them on the journey was unknown, but as the winds of change began to whisper, she held tightly to the question that thrummed in her soul: what forbidden truths lay in the shadows, waiting for the brave to unveil them? As the morning deepened, the colors of the day shifted subtly, taking on hues that felt both foreign and strangely familiar. Miriam stood amongst her people, the curiosity igniting within her like a candle flickering against the backdrop of encroaching night. The figure in the shadows had vanished, but his words remained etched in her mind, whispering reminders of the wilderness that beckoned them all. Shall we linger in this fear, or dare to step into the unknown? Miriam mused aloud, her voice an echo inviting the silence to respond. The congregation's gaze, still divided, shifted from her to the horizon, where hues of blue and gold converged, creating a canvas of uncertainty. A younger man named Ezekiel, known for his adventurous demeanor though just as often held back by the weight of expectation, spoke up with a tone that warmed the cool morning air. What if there is wisdom in the wilderness? What if our journey to Azazel is more than just a matter of casting off sin, but a pursuit of understanding through our deepest scars? The elders shifted uneasily. Their faces betrayed a blend of worry and intrigue, the importance of tradition wrestling with the flickering flame of potential change. One elder, a woman named Sarai, her brow adorned with lines of experience, finally answered: in our stories, the wilderness tests our hearts. But to face it with honesty requires more than courage. It demands communion with our past. Miriam nodded, her heart aligning with her vision. Could we not gather our stories, the whispered ones of shame and regret, and carry them with us as we seek Azazel? Rather than bury the darkness in silence, Could we hold it up to the light and find our common threads woven through suffering and redemption? A collective murmur traversed the crowd, a ripple of agreement paired with residual skepticism. They had grown accustomed to associating light with purity and darkness with destruction, yet the man in shadow had invited them to reconsider that binary. What if the wilderness is bound not by physical distance, but by the narratives we've accepted from fear? Ezekiel offered, his eyes alight with inspiration as he addressed the elders. To confront Azazel is not solely to expel, but to liarno transform what we have feared into an understanding that shapes us for the good. Sarai considered this, her features softening, a glimmer of possibility illuminating her face. What you speak of is communion, a coming together beyond our pasts and fears. But how do we prepare for this journey? How do we carry our truths without being crushed by their weight? It was a haunting inquiry, a question that filled the space with a palpable tension, encouraging exploration without a clear destination. Miriam realized that while they possessed the urge to journey into the wilderness, none knew the path to true revelation. Within the heart of the uncertainty, a quiet strength emerged among the group, igniting moments of earnest vulnerability. One by one, they began to share their burdens. Words about long-held grievances, failures that stung like unhealed wounds, desires thwarted by societal confines flowed freely. Each confession an invitation to deepen their collective understanding of what it meant to be truly human, yet, amidst the sharing, a feeling of trepidation loomed like an approaching storm. As Miriam listened intently, she pondered, how many layers of fear remained buried? What other truths lingered in the shadows, waiting for a chance to rise? The question hung in the crisp air, a thread entwining their stories, alluring yet uncomfortable, as if they were standing at the precipice of a great chasm, one that demanded they leap into the unknown. Would they find Azazel awaited them with the keys to their liberation, or a deeper secret that would unravel their understanding? Miriam's heart quickened, not with fear, but with curiosity and anticipation. Their journey was poised on the cusp of revelation, yet she held tightly to the unresolved question that poured forth like the wind that tousled their hair: what lies in the dark spaces of their souls awaiting the light of acceptance? As the sun arched higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the gathered crowd, Miriam felt the tension shift. The murmurs of sharing had woven an intricate tapestry of vulnerability, yet the air buzzed with an unvoiced question: who among them dared to confront the depths of their fears? It was not merely a gathering of words, it was a crucible in which souls would either be forged anew or left to smolder in unresolved torment. Echoes of past encounters in the wilderness played in the recesses of her mind. She recalled their forefathers' stories of struggle, of divine encounters that shaped destinies and inspired generations. Those conversations had long inspired awe, yet now, as they faced Azazel with raw hearts, she pondered if the direct confrontation with their own failures could lead them to an even more profound understanding. Sarai, still walking the line between tradition and transformation, raised her voice again. Let us prepare ourselves. If we tread the wilderness, it will test us for sure. But we might discover an inner wilderness first, a barren land of silence within us that craves the voice of truth. We must establish how to nurture our hearts, how to speak our pain into existence, or the wilderness will swallow us whole. Ezekiel's eyes shone with fervor. What if we created a ritual? A gathering of our stories, an offering not of our sins but of our truths. Before we journey, let us forge a bond through the acknowledgement of that which we fear the most, fear itself. The flicker of hope ignited by understanding can guide us through the intricate labyrinth of the wilderness. A ripple of agreement flowed through the crowd, their desire for growth emerging from the shackles of tradition. Humor, too, flared up in moments of shared levity as they tossed aside their heavy burdens, if only briefly. Laughter, light and unassuming, became a conduit through which the weight of the past found space to breathe and transform. In that sacred exchange, Miriam sensed the presence of the man in the shadows. His haunting words became more than echoes cloaked in mystery, they morphed into a promise that perhaps the wilderness was no mere wasteland, but a sanctuary of hidden truths, awaiting divine revelation amid their confessions. Yet as a ceremonial fire was kindled, and the flames danced against the sky, Miriam felt a pull towards a deeper mystery looming at the fringes of their gathering. What darkness awaited them beyond their shared narratives? As her thoughts spiraled inward, she began to wonder about Azazel's true nature. Was he a mere scapegoat for their collective sins, or did he hold, within his essence, the keys to a forbidden wisdom that could unravel the very fabric of their understanding of purity and redemption? Encouraged by urgency, she spoke hesitantly. What if Azazel is not merely an antagonist, but a figure who, in confronting us with our darkness, invites us to explore the very depths of our existence? What if he embodies both the wound and the healer? Perhaps we must visit him not with fear, but with curiosity, seeking an alliance, rather than an expulsion. Her words suspended in the air hung heavy, draped in a silence that felt pregnant with uncertainty, the crowd absorbing the weight of this new perspective. Doubt danced in their eyes, mingling with intrigue, while the flames flickered almost knowingly, as if time and space itself awaited a revelation. Miriam closed her eyes, envisioning the shadows dancing just beyond the firelight, whispering age-old secrets of longing and truth. Questions brewed and bubbled within her, a torrent of thoughts urging her forward. How many barriers had they erected, unwittingly, between themselves and the sacred understanding that lay shrouded in darkness? And as they prepared to confront the wilderness outside, was it truly the wilderness that held the greatest secrets, or was the true journey destined for the wilderness within? A silence fell over them, pregnant with 1,000 unspoken fears and emerging hopes. Each heart beat in time with the flickering flames, echoing a question that lingered in the stillness. Were they prepared to embrace the revelations that lay ahead, or would they retreat into the comfort of their long-held beliefs, ever fearful of the shadows that might lead them to liberation? The air felt heavy as dawn painted golden ribbons across the horizon. Miriam, still embraced by the afterglow of their ritual, sensed a stirring within her spirit. The previous night's gathering had ignited an ember of curiosity, urging her to explore the mysteries that tangled so intricately with Azazel's identity. The fires that once promised warmth now became torches illuminating the path toward the treacherous terrain of both the heart and the unknown. As the sunlight pierced through the trees, the group awakened to a new day, their hearts still tinged with the weight of their shared confessions. The echoes of vulnerability lingered, urging them forward, yet lingering questions hovered like dark clouds above their heads. Would they step into the promised wilderness or remain shackled by the fear of confronting their shadows? Today, we must contemplate our journey, Sarai proposed, her voice carrying a weight of resolve. The wisdom of Azazel may be hidden within us, buried beneath layers of doubt and crafted narratives of guilt. Let us choose to walk boldly, knowing that through the shadows may lie a divine embrace. Ezekiel stepped forward, a mixture of elation and trepidation filling the space between them. What if, as we prepare for our encounter with Azazel, we begin to unravel the truth of our own burdens? Each sin, each regret, perhaps leads us closer to understanding the duality of existence, the light and the dark coexisting within us. Miriam nodded, her heart racing at the prospect of re-examining the very principles upon which they'd built their beliefs. She pondered the ancient texts and tales. How often had Azazel been cast solely as the harbinger of doom, yet perhaps his existence revealed a mirror reflecting their collective flaws. Could confronting him lead to an awakening? Might the wisdom he offered unveil truths that had long been veiled by fear? As the group moved deeper into the wilderness, the flora transformed into a symphony of resilience. Branches intertwined as if in a protective embrace, and the ground beneath them whispered tales of grounding and growth. Yet each step took them further away from the safety of their familiar world and deeper into the uncertainty of what awaited. Miriam felt the pulse of the earth align with her own heartbeat, a reminder that their feet were not merely traversing land, but traversing the essence of their collective spirit. The shadows danced playfully, beckoning her to recognize that even the darkness could yield wisdom if they dared to tread lightly. As they reached a clearing, the sun broke through the canopy, shrouding their faces in light. At the center, a stone altar, old and worn, seemed to breathe with the weight of history. Ezekiel walked toward it, placing his hands firmly on its cool surface, drawing energy from the ancestral memories enshrined there. What if the altar represents our collective atonement? He mused, his voice barely above a whisper. What if we offered a prayer not of fear, but of understanding, inviting Azazel, instead of shunning him? Might he reveal not only our truths but also the pathways to liberation? His words echoed in the hearts of all present, sparking a collective contemplation. Would they venture beyond the surface of their long-held beliefs, daring to embrace uncertainty? This inner wilderness that was their longing could only awaken through a sincere offering and a willingness to explore beyond their fears. Miriam approached, her heart steadying against the anticipation that surged within her. Perhaps there is divinity in the embrace of discomfort, she added, grounded in newfound courage. In understanding Azazel as a part of our own narrative, we may confront the deeper shadows within ourselves. What if, in truth, he is the catalyst through which we learn not only to rise above our flaws but to find beauty intertwined with our chaos? The winds softened, carrying with them the weight of unsaid words, the lingering thoughts settling deep within the innermost recesses of their souls. Each heart beat in quiet contemplation, daring to break free. From the shackles of fear that threatened to bind them. As they stood at the precipice of revelation, Miriam sensed that the quest was not merely an external journey but an invitation to venture inward. What truths might they unearth, not only about Azazel, but about their own existence? Were they brave enough to seek partnerships forged in vulnerability, illuminating the depths of darkness with the glow of divine understanding? The atmosphere shifted as they gathered closer around the altar, an unspoken tension looming in the air like the fragile threads of a spider's web. The gentle rustling of leaves created a rhythm that matched the deeper pulses within their hearts. For a moment, time felt suspended, as if nature herself held her breath, awaiting their next move. As the golden rays of sunlight danced upon the hallowed stone, Miriam felt an urge to touch it, to connect with the essence of those long gone, their hopes, fears, and dreams imprinted like forgotten whispers within its surface. Each groove and crack told a story of struggle and redemption. It was then that a thought struck her: what if their encounter with Azazel was more than just an exploration of fear? Could it be an invitation, a call to confront their own narratives, the keys to their chains? Through a collective act of remembrance, Ezekiel turned to the group, sensing the tremor in Miriam's voice. What if we opened our hearts to Azazel not as a foe, but as a guide through the turmoil we seek to understand? The texts speak of his fall, yet maybe his purity lies in the truths buried beneath our own shame. What if his existence is a testament to the strength of resilience amid life's trials? Sarai, her brow furrowed in thought, stepped forward. We easily forget that every shadow tells us something important about ourselves. Perhaps what we label sin or transgression merely reflects our misunderstandings. If we could reconcile these aspects within ourselves, could we mirror that understanding back to Azazel, unearthing the forbidden secrets that dwell in both the dark and the light? Miriam's gaze shifted to the horizon where the sun hung low, casting long shadows around them. It's fear that distorts our perceptions, imprisoning us within our own guilt, she mused. What if freedom lies in embracing those secrets, unraveling them like threads of an ancient tapestry? Each thread would intertwine both flaws and strengths, revealing an intricate design that tells the story of humanity. With a newfound determination settling in the hearts of her companions, they joined hands around the altar, grounding themselves in the moment. The silence broke gently as each one spoke aloud their burdens and unfulfilled longings, pain, anger, jealousy, and the shame of past choices. Their voices began to layer upon one another, weaving a powerful narrative of vulnerability and honesty. This act of communal sharing became a waterfall, cascading against the rocks of their hearts, washing away the sediment of distrust. They invoked not Azazel as an entity apart, but as an integral piece of their collective soul, a part that had long been neglected and misunderstood. The ground below them trembled softly, matching the heartbeat of the earth, as if acknowledging their invitation. A cool wind whispered through the trees, a sound both eerie and soothing. Suddenly, one among them, a quieter member named Leah, began to speak. What if Azazel's fall was not a punishment, but a revelation? The group fell silent, drawn into her words. Were his insights not meant to shatter the illusions we hold about ourselves and our faith? Can we honor his lessons without fear of judgment? Perhaps there are secrets that the divine has withheld, but not for reasons of condemnation, rather, to see whether we could grow through discovery. The collective breath of the group hitched. Miriam felt her thoughts swirling. Had Leah grasped the essence of their exploration? Was their confrontation with Azazel the key not only for their understanding but for the very fabric of their faith? Could the secrets they were so fervently pursuing be an avenue towards greater enlightenment? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the colors of twilight painted the sky with rich reds and purples. The altar stood sentinel, steadfast under their combined resolve. In that remarkable moment, they realized that facing Azazel's legacy was not simply a journey into the darkness, it was a call to embrace a profound celebration of existence, the duality of sorrow and joy. Intertwined, yet, as they pondered this newfound perspective, a question lingered unresolved: would their willingness to accept and honor Azazel lead them to greater truths, or risk unraveling beliefs they had held sacred for so long? Are they prepared to confront the forbidden, and in doing so, illuminate not just their paths but the very essence of the divine? As night enveloped the land, the stars began to twinkle in the vast sky, each a distant reminder of mysteries much greater than themselves. The group stood around the altar, a circle of seekers caught between tangible fears and the ethereal whispers of liberation. Each heartbeat echoed the unspoken hope that harmonized with their shared intention. A sudden chill swept through the air, and Leah shivered slightly. "What if we are not alone in our musings?" she whispered, her voice barely breaking the spell of the gathering. "What if Azazel himself is listening or watching?" Miriam felt the weight of Leah's words hang like a mist around them. The others, sensing the shift, turned their gazes toward the now tranquil forest, shadows flickering against the trunks of ancient trees. The energy seemed to shift, as if inviting them to delve deeper into the unknown. "Imagine," Ezekiel began, his voice steady yet imbued with awe, "if Azazel represents not just a dark corner of our hearts but an invitation to explore the very nature of divinity. What if the fallen and the sacred are inseparably intertwined?" The group pondered. Could the tales of Azazel hold lessons that transcended the binaries of good and evil? They contemplated the stories of their ancestors, how they had often recounted the fall to justify their own failings, casting Azazel into a role of eternal blame, while they wore crowns of righteousness. Did that not cast a shadow on their own understanding of grace? Sarai, an artist at heart, leaned in closer to the altar. "Perhaps the stone before us, weathered and ancient, could serve as a canvas for our journey. Each of us holds a brush, together we can reclaim Azazel's narrative, inviting the colors of understanding, acceptance, and forgiveness to mix unhindered." Her words sparked light in their hearts. The concept of expressing their collective struggle through art redefined the nature of their confrontation, not merely a facing of fears, but a celebration of humanity's complexity. "We can begin to paint our truths, unapologetically embodying the light and the shadows," Miriam proposed, her enthusiasm rising like the moon that now began to rise high above. "What if our creations could tell not only of our burdens but also of our aspirations? Through them, we might convey a message to Azazel, and to ourselves, about the intricacies of our journey." An electrical charge pulsed in the air as one by one, each individual began to resonate with this new vision. Each of them imagined how they might contribute, connecting the symbolic with the real, bridging the divide erected by fear. They envisioned murals and songs, tales woven into the very fabric of their community, a tapestry revealing their shared vulnerability. A silence fell gently among them as they meditated on this revelation, pondering the boundless possibilities. Yet beneath this warmth glimmered a seed of doubt. Would their expressions resonate with Azazel, or would they merely echo back their own fears? As they stepped to the precipice of creativity and reconciliation, could they confront not only Azazel but also their own limitations and misgivings? As the first stars of the night twinkled down upon them, illuminating their faces with hopeful glimmers, they understood that embarking on this artistic journey was not guaranteed to yield solace. With open hearts, they stood poised between the desire for truth and the mystery of the unknown. What if, in this endeavor to reveal light through their shadows, they inadvertently uncovered more than Azazel's story? Would they dare to confront the intricate nature of their own divinity, discovering in that revelation profound secrets of existence? As dawn's first light kissed the horizon, the gathering stood upon the altar's uneven stones, a clan of seekers forging a path through the wilderness both outside and within. Awash in the glow of morning, they resolved to honor Azazel not merely as a fallen entity cloaked in darkness, but as a presence that echoed their own struggles, confusion, and ultimately their yearning for wholeness. Miriam, her heart aflame with purpose, felt the pulsating energy of their collective ambition. Today, she spoke, her voice resolute, "We bring forth our stories, not merely to unearth burdens but to uncover the light intertwined within our shadows. In honoring Azazel, we celebrate the fragments of ourselves that have long been dismissed, the group shared murmurs of agreement, fueled by the anticipation of this communal exploration. Ezekiel took a step forward, inspired by a surge of creativity. "Let each of our narratives weave together like threads in a grand tapestry," he proposed. "We'll craft a sacred mural that frames not only Azazel's legend but our own, a testament to resilience, vulnerability, and transformation. A living canvas that speaks of our journey into the unknown, revealing that the light we seek resides equally within our darkest moments," the crowd murmured as passions ignited. They envisioned vibrant colors splashing against the faded stone, capturing their truths with every brush stroke, pain and hope mingling, sins and lessons intertwining, giving birth to an artful representation of their shared humanity. The shadows that they had once feared were becoming partners in their sacred dance of creation. Emboldened by this newfound vision, they gathered materials: a handful of earth from the altar, a palette of colors taken from nature's abundant hues, vibrant greens reflecting the promise of renewal, deep reds resonating with the weight of sorrow, luminous gold representing the potential for healing. Even scraps of their own garments were fashioned into threads, each piece imbued with memories that the wilderness had drawn forth. As Miriam began to paint, she felt a profound connection with the figures of old, those who had traversed wildernesses of their own. Each stroke that flowed from her hand was not merely a reflection of Azazel's story but also an homage to their shared humanity, the battles they faced and the hopes that blossomed amid the chaos. Ezekiel added layers to the mural, depicting the interconnectedness of light and dark. Every twist and turn of his brush conveyed the essence of duality, revealing that understanding could only be found through the breadth of experience. "Look," he exclaimed, "the very place where fear blurs with grace becomes the source of our growth. In understanding Azazel, we confront our deepest selves and return not as mere spectators, but as individuals transformed by revelation." As the mural took shape, the collective essence of vulnerability transformed into bold declarations of beauty and strength. Each moment spent creating was a fellowship that flowed in harmony, resonating through the air like ripples in water. And beneath the colors, beneath the image of Azazel rising amid shadow and light, they embedded their shared confessions, a tapestry of their collective burden, woven into the very fabric that would uphold them. Day passed seamlessly into twilight, the sun dipping low and casting a warm glow upon what had been transformed, a canvas reflecting their journey and a mirror revealing their truths. The air shimmered with possibility as they stepped back to appreciate their work. A new story emerged, one where Azazel was embraced not as a specter of sin, but as a vital teacher, guiding them through darkness toward enlightenment. Underneath the tapestry, Miriam felt the vibration of an ancient truth resonating within her heart. "We have not merely painted walls," she declared gently, her voice laced with reverence. "We have invited dialogue with the whispers of the past. In doing so, we allow our presence to touch the divine that dwells both in the shadows and the light." As the final rays of sun surrendered to night and the stars began to cloak the heavens, the group stood in a sacred circle around their mural. A calm washed over them, as if the presence of Azazel had woven itself into the very fabric of their creation. Each heart beat in unison, no longer fractured by fear, but emboldened by acceptance. A feeling of profound stillness enveloped their gathering. "What remains now is to carry forth this revelation," a voice from the depths of the circle proclaimed. "This mural shall serve as a reminder not merely of our sins but of our journey to reconciliation. Let it stand testament that in embracing our deepest fears, we arc toward the divine, and that no shadow eclipses the light that exists within us all." In that moment, they understood. Embracing Azazel as a part of their journey meant acknowledging that the wilderness was not just an external landscape, but a realm filled with uncharted territories within themselves. They were not merely pilgrims bound for a destination but were transformed alchemists capable of nurturing growth out of struggle. With hearts intertwined, the group retreated, their spirits alight with hope and curiosity. Their journey had not concluded, it had merely shifted into a new phase of understanding. As they turned away from the altar, a single thread glimmered in the moonlight, reflecting the wisdom they had uncovered. A promise that creators of their destiny could make peace with darkness. The lessons of Azazel would resonate profoundly within them. For in every whisper of darkness, they had unearthed a secret. True liberation arises not from escaping the shadows but from dancing with them. This realization would echo through the course of their lives, an enduring testament to the beauty harvested from the chaos of existence. As they stepped into their new dawn, a collective sigh of relief transformed the air around them. It blended into the whispering wind, a creation of their spirits mingling with the world echoes of faith reborn, a true testament of revelation that dared to traverse the sacred boundaries of light and dark, revealing an eternal truth, that in embracing the entirety of their being, they became more than mere reflections, they became the light itself, guiding all into an awakening.